So let's get on the same page first. The Haunting of Hill House in my opinion is one of the best horror TV shows I have seen in a long time. It felt like the most complete show without the cliche jump shock horror techniques that gets boring for me quick. Mike Flanagan did a great job here, but then the follow-ups I felt like didn't come close. The Haunting of Bly Manor was too slow and felt like the show dropped a long way from Hill House. Midnight Mass brought some of that back, but still not quite there, but entertaining enough. Midnight Club was another one which bored me, and to be honest, I still haven't finished the damn show. The scariest thing about this franchise so far was the potential of another chapter, to be fair. Like, I was scared they would make another one and it would get worse. Then came the fall of the House of Usher, and it's not the Haunting of Hill House, but it gets pretty close. Anyways, let's talk through it. Bruce Greenwood was such a great addition. Being the narrator and one of the main characters sets the tone of the show. His deep, haunting voice and the portrayal of a rich, morally conflicted man was top notch. I've always liked him as an actor, and in my opinion is quite underrated. He's a good actor. Carla Gugino, I probably butchered that name, but she did surprise me a little. I knew she could play that mysterious and haunted woman, but she showed another dynamic in this show. I won't go too much into detail as she serves a big part of the plot, just know she does well. Mark Hamill, yeah, I didn't know he was in the show, but Mark has got nothing to prove. Everyone knows how dynamic Mark is. Whether you're talking Luke Skywalker or the Joker, he's done it all. And in this show, he executes this go-to man. That's the best way to describe it. He is the go-to man. Anything and everything you need, he is the man everyone needs in their corner when they are playing around in the grey areas of morality. The rest were good. The young and older Madeline Usher had a few good moments, but overall nothing really stood out from the rest of the cast. So the big question for the horror lovers, what kind of horror is it? It is the type of horror that I personally love. A deep, dark secret which is living between the family, a horror that sits in the room with you psychologically and makes you feel vulnerable, like this could happen to me. It's not a pure horror, and it's more like what would happen if a horror show and a thriller show had a baby, and out comes the Ushers. I'm just glad they didn't take the jump shock horror approach that most shows and movies take these days, and it gets boring real quick. You watch it first time, and then second time around you're like, oh, here it comes. And that to me doesn't have much rewatchability. I don't know if that's a word, but I made it a word. So it was entertaining, and it did well in every area and great in some. So what lets it down? The weakest point of the show is some of the supporting cast. It felt like Bruce, Mark and Carla were a level above the rest, which is not a bad thing completely, but when the episodes shift from family member to family member, some episodes feel weaker, slower and some stronger, well paced, just based on who the story is around. The supporting cast are not bad, just not great. When you're in the presence of such strong actors, the weaker ones feel weaker than they would, I guess. The first episode does get you hooked, but as the episodes progress it does dip a little in quality and then picks back up again. There's also an LGBT aspect of the show that does bug me a little. I have no issues with representation, but it felt like it was over-represented. Like the Sandman show, it felt like almost every character was either gay or bi in some way, which isn't really something which can connect with the majority. I don't like it when a show gets too political or too woke. That's just me personally. I like balance and the focus of the show to be the story, not who they hump. Fall of the House of Usher overall is a great watch. Yes, it starts strong and slowly dips a little, but it picks back up and finishes strong. It doesn't quite match the Haunting of Hill House, but it's better than the others. Yeah, I know some will say Midnight Mass is better, but I personally don't like the aspect of it as much. Sorry, spoiler alert or whatever you want to call it. Definitely check this show out. Stick with it to the end and it pays off. It's been a while since we got a decent horror show or movie. For the horror lovers, this is one to definitely check out.
And the stars never rise, but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabelle Lee.